I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now. Put your phone down flat on a surface. Pour yourself something warm. Close the door if you can. Because what I'm about to share with you is not a cautionary tale. It's not a revenge fantasy. It's not content. It's my life. My actual life. The four walls of the house I thought was a home. The man I thought was my person. The woman I used to be before I found out the truth, and the woman I became after. I kept a diary. I've kept diaries since I was 11 years old. Cheap composition notebooks with lock-in key clasps that never really locked. I wrote about boys in middle school. I wrote about my mother's surgery the summer I turned 20. I wrote about the day I got married in the backyard of my parents' house in Columbus while the fireflies came out early and everyone cried. I wrote all of it down. Because that's what I do when the world gets too big for my chest. I write it down, and somehow it fits. This diary, though, this one was different. I started it as a wellness exercise. My therapist suggested it, actually, because I was feeling restless in a way I couldn't name. Like something just under the surface was waiting to breach. I didn't know then that I was right. I wrote every day for months. And somewhere in those pages, without me fully realizing it, I documented the slow unraveling of my entire marriage. I never intended to share it. I kept it in the drawer of my nightstand, the same nightstand where he used to put his wedding ring before bed every night, that small golden click against the wood. He doesn't do that anymore. For a lot of reasons. But I've been thinking lately about all the women out there sitting in quiet houses, in suburbs just like mine, in Ohio towns just like mine, feeling that same nameless restlessness. Feeling like something is wrong but being too scared, or too tired, to look at it directly. This diary is for you. This is the diary I never intended to publish. It begins on a Tuesday in February. Day 1, February 4th. New notebook. New intention. Dr. Harmon says I should write every morning before I check my phone. She says the first thoughts of the day are the most honest. She might be right. My first thought this morning was, I love this house. I do. I genuinely do. It's nothing fancy, a gray Cape Cod on Briar Mill Road with a front porch that's slightly too small and a backyard that's slightly too large. Marcus picked it. He had a vision for the backyard. Raised garden beds, he said. String lights. A fire pit we'd sit around on fall evenings. We have the fire pit. We've used it twice. But the house itself, the way the morning light comes through the kitchen window and falls on the butcher block counter in a long gold stripe, that's mine. I love that. Marcus was already up when I came downstairs. Made coffee. Left mine in the French press the way I like it. He kissed my temple when I walked in, still in my socks. 12 years together. 7 married. Some mornings I still can't believe how lucky I am. Day 4, February 7th. Had the girls over tonight. Priya and Denise and Jocelyn, same crew since college, same chaos. Priya brought her new thing, some kind of jalapeno-infused vodka that I can confirm is a war crime. Denise is pregnant with her second and spent the whole evening looking smug and sober while the rest of us suffered. Marcus poked his head in around 9 o'clock, charming and easy the way he always is with my friends. Topped off our glasses. Made a joke that landed. Disappeared back upstairs like a well-trained husband. Jocelyn grabbed my arm after he left. God, Clara, he is still so cute, she said. I laughed. But honestly? I thought, yeah. He is. 12 years, and I still think he's cute. There's something to be said for that. Day 7, February 10th. Marcus got a new project manager at work. He mentioned it over dinner. Someone brought in from the Cincinnati office to oversee the Halden account. Big commercial real estate deal. He's been on that account for 3 years, so naturally they want him to work closely with whoever's running it now. What's the new PM like? I asked. He shrugged. Fine. Competent. Kind of intense. I asked if it was a man or a woman. Woman, he said. Lauren. Lauren Voss. Then he changed the subject to whether we should refinish the deck this spring. I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? Day 11, February 14th. Valentine's Day. He brought home tulips, not roses, tulips, because he knows I think roses are predictable, and we went to dinner at that Italian place in Grandview we always say we'll revisit and never do. The gnocchi was perfect. We shared a bottle of Barolo. On the way home, he held my hand over the center console like he used to in the beginning. His thumb tracing small circles on my knuckle. I love you, he said. Not like a greeting. Like a statement of fact. I love you too, I said. The fireflies aren't out in February, but I remember thinking the sky looked like they were. Like small pieces of light hung up just for us. I came home and wrote that down in this diary because I didn't want to forget it. I should have taken a picture instead. Day 15, February 18th. Marcus has been working late more this week. Twice so far. The Halden account, he said. They're in the weeds on something with zoning and the timeline got compressed. He texted both times before he was late. He called once, just to check in. He brought home samosas from the Indian place near his office the second time because he knows they're my weakness. I ate them at the kitchen island in my pajamas and thought, this man. This good, thoughtful man. I'm going to try not to be one of those wives who makes her husband feel guilty for working hard. My mother was that woman. I watched it corrode something between my parents so slowly they didn't even notice it happening. I refuse to be that. Day 18, February 21st. Found his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. Not snooping. It just lit up. A notification from someone named LV, which I assumed was a contact saved weird. Maybe an abbreviation for something work-related. It said, "Don't forget tomorrow," with a small calendar emoji. I put the phone face down where I found it. Didn't pick it up. Didn't think about it for more than 10 seconds. He has a work calendar full of things I'm not privy to. That's normal. That's just what happens when you're married to someone who works in commercial real estate. Half his life is meetings I don't know about. I made us popcorn and we watched something on TV. I slept fine. Day 20, February 23rd. Marcus surprised me with a weekend away. He came home Friday and just said, "Pack a bag. We're going to Hocking Hills." I booked the cabin. We hiked on Saturday, even though it was cold enough to see our breath. Held hands on the trail. He took 100 photos of me that I immediately made him delete because my hair was a disaster and my cheeks were the color of a fire hydrant. He kept 3 of them anyway. "You're beautiful," he said, looking at his phone instead of me. Not performing it for an audience. Just saying it the way you say a thing that's simply true. I feel foolish writing this, but that night in the cabin, the wood smoke smell, the dark outside so absolute it felt like being inside something, I thought, we're going to be okay. We're better than okay. We're good. We came home Sunday evening and he fell asleep on the couch at 9 o'clock with his arm around me and the TV still on. I turned the volume down and just sat there. I felt so full. "I need to ask you something." Have you ever trusted someone the way I trusted Marcus in those early entries? Completely. Bone deep. The kind of trust where you find their phone face down on a counter with a strange notification and your brain just doesn't go there, because why would it? Because in your world, the person you love is exactly who they say they are. Tell me in the comments if you've ever been there. That safe, that sure, that blind. Because I need you to understand where I was standing before it all started to shift. Back to the diary. Day 24, February 27th. He's been on his phone more. I noticed it the way you notice a sound that doesn't belong, not dramatically, just with the small antenna you grow when you've lived alongside someone for 12 years. He used to keep his phone on the kitchen counter all evening. Now it travels with him. Bathroom. Upstairs. Into the garage when he goes out to move the car. He's not secretive about it exactly. More like, present aware. Like the phone has become something he keeps in his peripheral vision. I told myself it was work stress. The Holden account is a big deal for his firm. Big money. Big pressure. That's probably all it is. I didn't ask. Day 29, March 4th. He came home late again. Third time this month. Different from before, though. Before, when he came home late, he'd decompress, loosen his tie on the way through the door, tell me about the meeting or the client or the logistical mess he just sorted. He'd narrate. Now he comes home tired in a quieter way. Kisses my cheek. Asks about my day. Eats whatever I've left on the stove. Goes upstairs. The shape of him is the same. The weight of him is different. I keep trying to put my finger on it and coming up empty. Day 33, March 8th. I googled Lauren Voss. I'm writing that down because if I don't, I'll pretend I didn't. I told myself I was just curious. The way you get curious about anyone who occupies a significant chunk of your spouse's professional time. Perfectly normal. Totally routine. She has a LinkedIn. Headshot, professional, polished, dark hair pulled back. MBA from Ohio State. 5 years at the Cincinnati office of Marcus's firm before the transfer. Impressive list of accounts. She's pretty. I'm allowed to notice that and not attach a story to it. She's a professional colleague with a great LinkedIn. That's all. I closed the tab. Cleared my browser history. Not because I was hiding anything, but because the act of opening the tab in the first place embarrassed me. I don't want to become a suspicious wife. I refuse to become a suspicious wife. Day 38, March 13th. He laughed at a text message at dinner. That's not unusual. People laugh at texts. Except he angled the phone toward his body and turned the screen slightly before he put it away. Just slightly. The kind of micro-adjustment you make without realizing you're making it. I didn't say anything. We talked about whether we should finally get the gutters replaced. We talked about whether his mother was expecting us for Easter. We talked about everything except the thing that was suddenly sitting between us at the table. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I'm looking for things now because I went looking on Google 2 weeks ago and put a needle into a place that was fine before. I ate my dinner. He ate his. We washed the dishes together the way we always do, me washing, him drying, and our hands touched over the faucet and he smiled at me. Still my husband. Still that smile. I'm being paranoid, I told myself. I'm being paranoid. Day 45, March 20th. He missed my work thing. I know that sounds small. But I want to write it down accurately so I don't minimize it later. My company's quarterly showcase, the event I've been planning for 3 months, the one where I was presenting our new client acquisition strategy, the one he had in his calendar since January. He texted me an hour before to say he'd been pulled into an emergency on the Halden account and couldn't make it. So sorry. So proud of me regardless. We'll celebrate. I stood at the podium in front of 38 people and there was an empty chair in the second row where I told him to sit. I presented anyway. I was good, actually. My boss told me afterward that it was the best quarterly presentation we had in 2 years. I cried in the car on the way home. Not loud, that quiet kind of crying that's more about grief than emotion. Like something leaving your body through a pinhole. He had wine and a cheese board waiting when I got home. He hugged me for a long time. I'm so sorry, he said. I'm so sorry, Clara. I believed him. I still believe him. I just don't know anymore if his sorry is enough. Day 51, March 26th. Priya called. We were talking about nothing in particular, her job, her husband's terrible taste in streaming shows, and then she got quiet in the particular way Priya gets quiet when she's deciding whether to say something. Can I ask you something weird? She said. Always. Is everything good with you and Marcus? I asked her why. I ran into him last Tuesday, she said. At the Polaris Mall. He was with a woman. They were laughing pretty hard about something. I kept my voice very steady. Probably a co-worker. He's deep in this big account right now. Yeah, probably, she said. She didn't push. But later that night I lay in the dark next to my sleeping husband and stared at the ceiling and tried to remember if he'd mentioned being at the mall last Tuesday. He hadn't. He'd told me he was working late. He was probably just running an errand in between, I told myself. Priya probably misread the situation. She always dramatizes. I went to sleep. But it took a long time. Day 57, April 1st. April Fool's Day. The joke, as it turns out, is on me. Though I didn't know that yet. I was in the laundry room when I found the receipt. His jacket pocket. I always check his pockets before I wash, it's a habit, because he routinely sends quarters and pens to their death in the spin cycle. It was a dinner receipt. 2 entrees. 1 bottle of wine. A dessert. The restaurant was Mira, the new place downtown, the one that opened in January, the one I had sent him an article about because I wanted us to try it together. We hadn't been. But apparently he had. The date on the receipt was a Thursday. He told me that Thursday he had a client dinner in Dublin that ran long. I never questioned it. Of course he have client dinners. That's his job. I stood there in the laundry room holding that receipt for a long time. It could have been a client dinner. A 2-person client dinner at the most romantic new restaurant in Columbus. I folded the receipt back up. Put it in my own pocket. Did the laundry. I didn't bring it up. I don't know why I didn't bring it up. Maybe because some part of me already knew. And knowing changes everything. And I wasn't ready for everything to change. Day 60, April 4th. I'm not sleeping well. I wake up around 2 o'clock every night now, in that particular dark that feels different from all the other darks. I lie there and listen to him breathe, that familiar sound, the rhythm I've memorized like a song, and I try to make it enough. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. I still don't know anything for certain. I want to be very clear about that. I have a receipt, a cancel plan, a laughing woman in a parking lot, and a contact saved as LV in my husband's phone. None of that is proof of anything. But my chest doesn't care about proof. My chest has been sending out signals for 2 months now. And I'm beginning to think I should listen. I want to ask you something honest. If you were holding that receipt in a laundry room, if your best friend had called with that particular pause in her voice, if your husband's phone had been angling away from you for weeks, would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have said something? I'm not asking to judge anyone's answer. I genuinely want to know. And if this diary is landing in your chest right now, if you recognize this feeling, go ahead and hit that like button, because this story is just getting started, and I think you need to stay with me. Day 63, April 7th. I checked the phone records. I want to be honest in this diary, and the honest truth is that I checked the phone records through our carrier's family account because I'm a joint account holder and I'd been doing it in my head for weeks and I finally just did it. One number appears more than any other. More than his mother. More than his brother in Denver. More than his best friend Joel, who he calls every Sunday. More than me. 47 calls or texts in the last 28 days. Some as early as 6 in the morning. Some after 11 at night. I looked up the number. Lauren Voss. Her personal cell, not the office line. I sat at the kitchen island for 2 hours after that. The coffee I'd made went cold. The morning light came through the window in that long gold stripe I love so much. I stared at it until it moved. Day 67, April 11th. I confronted him. Not perfectly. I want to write it down truthfully, not heroically. He came home from work and I was at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a glass of water in front of me and the folded receipt. I looked at him when he walked in and I said, "Who is Lauren Voss to you?" He stopped. A small thing. A fraction of a second where his body paused before his face arranged itself. "She's the PM on the Halden account, Clara. You know that." "I know the account," I said. "I asked who she is to you." He set his bag down. Sat across from me. Walked me through what he called a complicated professional relationship. He said she was high maintenance. Demanding. Texted at all hours because she doesn't respect personal time. He said the dinner receipt was a working dinner that he'd characterized as a client dinner because she is technically a client liaison. He said he was sorry he hadn't been more specific. It was smooth. Too smooth, actually. He had an answer for every piece. I looked at my husband across that table, the man I've shared a bed with for 7 years, the man who held my hand on a hiking trail in February, and I thought, he's lying to me. Not a feeling. A fact. He's lying to me. Day 71, April 15th. He bought me flowers the next day. And the day after. And the day after that. Tulips. My favorite. 3 times in a row. I put them in the blue vase on the windowsill and they looked beautiful and I couldn't stand to look at them. We were polite to each other all week in the way that people are polite when they're managing something. Passing carefully around the same space. Saying thank you for small things. Asking about each other's days and actually listening to the answers. We were performing marriage. I kept thinking, when did we become performers? Day 77, April 21st. Jocelyn told me something. She works downtown, near Marcus's office. She sees things sometimes, she said. And she'd been sitting on this for a while because she didn't want to be the one. She texted me, "Clara, I need to tell you something. Can we meet?" We sat in her car in the parking garage at the Short North for an hour. She had seen them. Not at the mall the way Priya had, more than that. She'd seen them at a coffee shop near his office on a day he told me he was in meetings all morning. She'd seen how he looked at her when he thought no one was paying attention. How did he look? I asked. She didn't want to answer. I made her answer. The way you look at someone you've chosen, she said. I didn't cry in the car. I waited until I got home, until the door was closed, until I was alone in the bathroom with the fan on. Then I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time. Day 82, April 26th. He lied to me again tonight. I knew it before he finished speaking. I could see it, not just feel it, see it, in the way his eyes didn't stay still, in the half-beat before his answer. He said he'd been at the office until 8. The GPS on his car, our old Honda that he doesn't know I have the app for, showed him parked on Hubbard Avenue for 90 minutes. Hubbard Avenue. Where Lauren Voss lives, according to her own Instagram, which I found 2 days ago. Her apartment building. Her trendy neighborhood. Her life that apparently now includes a significant piece of my husband. I cooked dinner that night. I set the table. I poured the wine. And I sat across from the man I married and I said, "How was your day?" And I listened to the lie. And I ate my dinner. And I started, very quietly, to plan. Day 88, May 2nd. I can barely write in this diary some nights. My hand holds the pen and I don't know what to put down because the words that come up are too big. They would take up all the pages. They would bleed through. 7 years. 7 years. I trusted this man with everything that is tender and private in me. I built a life inside the life we built together. I cried in this man's arms when my father was sick. I let him be the first person I called when my first big promotion came through. He knows how I take my coffee and how I like to be held when I can't sleep and what song makes me sob every single time. He knows all of it. And he chose someone else anyway. I don't say his name in this diary anymore. Day 91, May 5th. I called a lawyer. Beth Kerwin, family attorney. Referred by my friend Dana who went through something similar 4 years ago. I sat in a small conference room with a yellow legal pad and I explained my marriage in bullet points while Beth took notes with the quiet efficiency of someone who has heard this particular story many times and never stopped caring about it. She told me what I would need. She told me what my options were. She told me that Ohio is an equitable distribution state, which means what we've built together, the house, the retirement accounts, his firm's profit sharing, belongs to both of us. I drove home with my hands steady on the wheel. Something had shifted. The grief was still there, enormous, oceanic grief that I suspect will be with me for a very long time. But underneath it, something harder had settled in. The kind of hard that isn't cold. The kind that's more like resolved. Day 97, May 11th. I've been collecting documentation for 3 weeks now. The phone records. The GPS logs. Screenshots from his email. Yes, I got into his email, through the password I'd known for years, the one he'd never thought to change because why would he? I was his wife, I was safe. Receipts. A hotel booking I found in a folder labeled Halden Documents. The Halden Documents. I sat with that for a while. I have a folder on my own laptop now, tucked inside a subfolder labeled Q2 Budget Templates because I know him and I know he would never open a spreadsheet folder voluntarily. Beth has copies of everything. I have not told him. I have not changed my behavior. I say good morning. I make coffee. I ask about the Halden account with genuine sounding interest. I am performing a wife while quietly, methodically, becoming something else. I think of it as building the door while still standing inside the room. Day 100, May 14th. 100 days. I want to mark this entry because I've been thinking about the woman who started this diary. Who wrote about morning light on butcher block and fireflies and the click of a wedding ring on a nightstand. I loved her. She was happy in a way that felt so earned. She trusted so completely. She wasn't foolish for that. I need to say that here, where I'm the only one reading, where there's no performance required. She was not foolish. She was faithful. She was whole. She gave everything she had to someone who didn't hold it the way it deserved to be held. That's not her failure. That is entirely his. But that woman is changing now. She's still here, I'm still here. But the soft part has been replaced by something different. Something that woke up. Something that is done being quiet. This is the kind of story that doesn't make it to group chats. It doesn't make it to family dinners. Women sit with this alone, in bathrooms with the fan on, in car seats in parking garages, because there's nowhere safe enough to take it. That's why this channel exists. Pulse Reader is here for every woman who has ever sat on a bathroom floor with a truth she didn't know what to do with. If that's you, if you've ever been her, subscribe. So you never miss another story like this one. And then come back. Because Clara isn't done. Day 101, May 15th. He asked me at breakfast if everything was okay. I looked up from my coffee. Met his eyes. Let a beat pass the way you let a note hang in a song. Everything's fine, I said. Why? You've just seemed distant, he said. I smiled. The kind of smile I've been practicing. Work stuff, I said. This account I'm managing. You know how it goes. He nodded. He understood the demands of a difficult account. He had no idea. Day 104, May 18th. Beth and I met again. I'm in a strong position, she told me. Stronger than I might expect, given that Ohio requires a year of legal separation before a divorce is finalized, but given the documented infidelity, we can move quickly on protecting assets. The house is in both names, but I've been the primary income source for 3 of the last 7 years while he built his client base. She said that matters. She asked me what I wanted from the outcome. I thought about it. I want the house, I said. We can probably get you the house. I want a clean exit. I don't want years of litigation. I don't want my life to be about him any longer than necessary. She wrote that down. I don't want my life to be about him any longer than necessary. That felt like the most powerful sentence I'd said in years. Day 108, May 22nd. I called the HR department at his firm. Let me be careful about how I write this, because I want to be accurate. I did not call to report him. I called to understand the firm's policy on intra-office relationships, as Marcus had described Lauren as a PM brought in from another office, which technically makes her a co-worker in a collaborative capacity. The policy, it turns out, requires disclosure of personal relationships to HR, particularly when one party holds financial authority over the other's account assignments. He had not disclosed anything. Lauren Voss's account assignments were controlled, in part, by Marcus. I thanked the HR coordinator for the information. I saved the policy document she emailed me. Day 112, May 26th. I told him I wanted to take a weekend by myself. A little solo trip, I said. I needed to decompress. I was going to stay with my cousin in Cincinnati. He encouraged it. Warmly. With that ease that I used to read as generosity and now read as relief. Take the time, he said. You deserve it. I drove to Cincinnati. But not to my cousin's house. I met with a financial advisor Beth had recommended. We spent 3 hours going over accounts, retirement funds, projected home equity, and what a fair settlement might look like. When I drove back on Sunday, I had a plan. Not a revenge plan. A future plan. There's a difference. I've had to remind myself of the difference sometimes in the last few weeks, because the anger wants to sit in the driver's seat and the anger is not a good driver. But justice? Justice is something else. Justice can drive just fine. Day 115, May 29th. I am sleeping again. Not well, but again. The 2 in the morning wakings are less frequent. When they happen, I don't lie there unraveling, I lie there reviewing. What's next? What Beth needs. What I'm protecting. I used to be soft in my sleep. He used to say I looked like I'd never worried about anything in my life when I was sleeping. I wonder what I look like now. I wonder if I look like someone who knows exactly what she's doing. Day 118, June 1st. Priya knows. I sat her down last week, told her everything. She cried, which made me cry, which was the first time I'd really let myself cry in front of another person since this started. What are you going to do? She asked, when we'd both gathered ourselves enough to speak. I already did it, I said. She stared at me. I explained. The lawyer. The financials. The documentation. The HR policy. The account disclosure Marcus had failed to make. Priya was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. Not a cruel laugh, a delighted one. Like watching someone produce an ace from nowhere. Clara, she said. You absolute legend. It was the first time I'd laughed in a long time too. A real one. The full kind. Day 120, June 4th. Tomorrow is the day. I have packed what is essential, documents, irreplaceable items, medications, the blue vase from the kitchen window because it's mine and I love it. Everything else is covered in the settlement Beth has been preparing. He's at work right now. I'm sitting at the kitchen island. The morning light is coming through the window in that long gold stripe and I'm watching it the way I watched it in February when everything felt full and certain and safe. The light is the same. It has always been the same. It was never about him. I think that's the thing I need to carry forward. The things that were beautiful were not beautiful because of him. The morning light was mine. The fireflies at the wedding were mine. The feeling of home, that particular fullness, I made that. I grew that in me. He couldn't take it because it was never his to take. Tomorrow I become someone who knows that clearly. Tonight, I write this last entry. And I close this diary. Day 121, June 5th. He came home to a letter. Not a note, a letter. Full and detailed and honest in the way I have never been able to be face to face with him, because he's good at countering my words in real time and I needed him to read mine without interruption. Beth had already filed. The HR department at his firm had already received a formal inquiry, triggered by an anonymous third party, regarding undisclosed personal relationships and the resulting conflict of interest on the Halden account. That inquiry had been expedited. Commercial real estate firms take conflicts of interest extremely seriously when the Halden account in question is valued at $38 million. I know because I checked. He called my phone approximately 6 times in the hour after he read the letter. I did not answer. I was already on the highway heading north, the blue vase wedged carefully in the back seat, the windows down, the radio on. He texted, Clara, please. We need to talk. Then, I can explain everything. Then, I love you. I put the phone in the cup holder face down. And I drove. 3 months later, the Halden account was reassigned following the conflict of interest review. Lauren Voss was returned to the Cincinnati office pending an internal HR process. Marcus's profit-sharing allocation for the year was restructured as part of our settlement agreement. I got the house. I got the house on Briar Mill Road with the porch that's too small and the backyard that's too large. The raised garden beds Marcus always talked about but never built. I built them myself, actually. This past September. With Priya and Denise and Jocelyn, on a Saturday that started cloudy and turned glorious. Denise, 8 months pregnant, was strictly on supervisor duty. Jocelyn brought a speaker and we played music I hadn't listened to in years. The beds are full now. Tomatoes. Herbs. 2 rows of sunflowers along the back fence that turned out taller than I expected. I eat breakfast on the porch in the mornings. Socks on. French press on the railing. The morning light falls across the backyard differently than it falls through the kitchen window, wider, more generous, like it has more room to be itself. I think about that woman who started this diary. Who wrote "I'm so lucky" in February and meant it completely. I don't feel sorry for her. I'm not angry at her for trusting. I love her, actually. I love how fully she loved. I love that she believed in the life she was building. She just deserved someone who was building it with her. That man exists. I believe that now. He's not in this story had to end first. But he's somewhere, and I'm not afraid of finding him eventually. I'm not even in a hurry. Right now I have the house. And the sunflowers. And the women who showed up with shovels. And the morning light. And that is, in this moment, entirely enough. This diary is closed. CM, Briar Mill Road, Columbus, Ohio. One more check-in before we close. I need to know what you think. At what moment in this story would you have done something differently? The receipt in the laundry room? The dinner at Mira? The night Jocelyn sat in the parking garage and told Clara the truth? Drop your moment in the comments. I'm reading every single one, and honestly, your answers are going to shape the next story we tell on this channel. Because Pulse Reader is a conversation. And you are exactly who I'm having it with. The last page. If this diary lived inside your chest for the last few minutes. If you held your breath at the laundry room receipt, if you sat with her on the bathroom floor, if you smiled when Priya said "Clara, you absolute legend." Then you already know what this channel is. It's the place where women's stories get the ending they deserve. Hit like if Clara's story deserved to be told. Subscribe to Pulse Reader so you never miss the next one. And tell me down below. Have you ever written something, a letter, a diary entry, a text you never sent, that you never showed anyone? What did it say? I'll be in the comments.